All right, this is part 3, the final part of chapter 18, the meaning of Maggie. The next morning, I was the last one up. Mom must have already had a bazillion cups of coffee because she was buzzing with energy. Good morning, sunshine. Good morning, I yawned. How's Dad? She picked up my pillow. Well, there's nothing on TV. His butt hurts from sleeping on that hard bed, and his hair looks terrible. But other than that, he's much better. Want to go see him? I nodded yes, pulled on my clothes, and walked through the maze to his room, blindfolded by Mom's hand. Sunlight glared through the blinds and painted lines across Dad's face. He poked at a bowl of jello with a fork. You gonna eat that? He pushed it toward me. It's all yours. I took a closer look at the bowl of jello. It was orange, not red. Nah, I only like the red kind. Me too. Mom went into the hall to talk with the nurse and left me alone with Dad. I thought it was going to be weird to be alone with him, but it wasn't. Despite all the machines and bags and smells, he was still just Dad. We talked about politics and music and why red jello was better than orange jello. And then Mom reappeared with my book bag. Your sisters and I are going down to the cafeteria. Want to come? I almost said yes until I saw Dad's face. He looked so down, and I knew I couldn't leave him alone, even if I was dying for some red jello. He'd been alone in that cold and terrible room long enough. So I stayed and made myself comfortable in the world's most uncomfortable chair. When I took out my new leather journal, Dad smiled. Oh good, she gave it to you. You know, I picked that out myself. I turned back the cover to the first page and wrote my name. Did you really pick it out? Actually your mother did. But it was my idea. I gave him a look. Was it really your idea? No, but your mother gets credit for everything. He laughed, his cool guy laugh that usually made me feel better. But right then, I didn't feel better, which I didn't understand because Dad was feeling better then, so I should, right? I wasn't sick. I didn't have scary things in my arms and nose, but I felt terrible. I felt lost. Dad looked different to me now. Sure, his face was the same, just with more stubble, and his eyes were still blue, just a little less bright, but he was hard to recognize, and not just because he wasn't wearing a rock and roll t-shirt. Dad had always said he was an adventurer, a dreamer, which made his new state of sick all the more terrible. It was like he was a free spirit who was no longer free. I felt like begging him to tell me everything was going to be okay, that he was going to be okay. I needed to hear it from him. I needed to know he was going to be there for every single important thing. I needed him to hear my speech as high school valedictorian, where I planned on quoting Abraham Lincoln and Neil Young. I needed him to be there for every single victory, every single prize, whether it be the Nobel, Pulitzer, or Cracker Jack. I needed my dad back, the adventurer, the dreamer, the free spirit. He cleared his throat. Hey, Mags? I looked up at him, and he took a deep breath. Every single blanket piled on him, on top of him, rose and then fell with his words. I'm really sorry. I thought about yelling, but I didn't. I thought about crying, but I couldn't. I thought about running away, but honestly, I was sick of running. I thought about thinking and how I needed to do more of it. Even if that seemed impossible because I already thought so much, but I needed to change my thought trajectory to get closer to how I could help Dad and Mom and Layla and maybe even Tiffany. And all that thinking led to one thought. Fixing Dad didn't have to just mean curing him. fixing Dad could mean a million of things. And right now, it meant I should just be here for him. Even though I was so many adjectives like scared, sad, confused, tired, and yes, hungry. I should also become one more adjective. I should be brave. So I stood and pulled up my bootstraps. I reached up to him and wrapped my scarf around his neck, and then I said to him the 4 words I so desperately wanted him to say to me. Dad, it's gonna be okay. His face was confident even though his voice was shaking. It's definitely gonna be okay, Mags. The rush of hospital cold hit my neck, and I went back to the chair and back to the open book waiting for me. Right now seemed like a good time as any to start my very first chapter, but my mind went blank. I'm not really sure what to write. What do you think? Dad took a long sip of juice and thought about it. Well, I think you're supposed to write what you know. So, what do you know? That sounded too daunting. I knew way too many things. It would be impossible to narrow them down. I held the book for a minute and thought about it. What would you write about? He gathered all his thoughts and thoughtfully said, I'll tell you in 10 years. I pictured what we would be like in 10 years from that moment. I was going to know so much about Dad that I could write a whole book just about him. I knew all of his inside jokes, and I would know what the hippies wrote in shaving cream on his car and on his wedding day, and I would know every single Neil Young song, even the B-sides, bootlegs, and rarities. I would know so many other things that he would finally tell me in 10 years. But right now, I could only write what I knew right now. So I uncapped my pen and wrote the first thing that popped into my head. Beep, beep, beep. My dad won't stop beeping. If you remember the very first part of the book, the first part is this. Beep, beep, beep. My dad won't stop beeping. So, and it was her birthday that day. What an interesting book. And I would love to know some of your thoughts about it. So I will be setting up some sort of way for you guys to tell me what you thought about it. So, all right, that is The Meaning of Maggie. I hope you enjoyed it.